Where is the nine-tails Jinchuriki? If I don't tell you, you will die immediately. Kakuzu grabbed the red scarf around his neck and lifted him up, his words filled with intimidation. Even though there was a group of ninjas staring at him, who could attack him at any time, he didn't pay any attention to them. But Sasori suddenly opened his two hands, his palms along the two pitch-black round tubes, aiming right below on the street. Not good. Kakuzu's face was shocked. He quickly grabbed the red scarf in his hand and jumped backwards. Looking at Sasori's posture, he probably wanted to use a large-range attack. Perhaps even Kakuzu would be affected. Hellfire formation. Sure enough, Sasori's two palms in the middle of that pitch-black tube sprayed out a large patch of high-pressure flame, howling in the air, rolling towards the ninja group over there. Boom, boom, tilde, tilde, tilde. Ah! The ninja group had no time to escape before they were surrounded by flames. Their clothes were quickly set on fire, and their skin was burned black. The pain caused them to let out painful screams. There were quite a few people who, although their bodies were on fire, had not lost their minds. They instinctively wanted to escape this sea of fire and run away in all directions. Sasori could spit out two bursts of fire. The fire was so fierce that it covered a radius of 20 to 30 meters around. Even if these eight-legged ninjas were huge, they still wouldn't be able to escape through that sea of fire area. In an instant, a raging fire rose from the central passage, completely separating the two sides. The walls of the great tower were burned by the high-temperature flames until they cracked into cracks. A whole group of people were alive and well, jumping around in the flames, screaming in pain. As time passed, the screams slowly stopped, leaving only two clusters of embers on the ground still flickering in the wind, and the air filled with a burning smell. Sasori, what the hell do you mean? Did you just think you were going to kill me together? Kakuzu glared at Sasori with great dissatisfaction. On the contrary, you didn't die either. Sasori jumped down from the wall of the building, his voice filled with indifference. As if he had really killed his teammates just now, it wouldn't have anything to do with him. This bastard. Kakuzu's temper flared, his body trembling. What kind of shitty mission did the leader arrange? If these guys understood teamwork, that stone would probably bloom. Obstacles under the eyes, the mission is more important. Kakuzu forced himself to suppress the anger in his heart, continued to ask the red turban. Where is the nine-tails Jinchuriki? I absolutely will not betray my teammates. The red scarf was tightened until her cheeks were red. Her face was full of pain. Speaking was extremely difficult. Haydn slowly walked forward carrying the large sickle, laughing heartily. You're so fast. I didn't think you two would finish it so quickly, haha. Sasori glared at Haydn, not saying anything, thinking to himself that this guy, except for that brute strength and that invincible body, is simply the scum of the war. Kakuzu ignored Haydn. His other arm's skin turned pitch black. He raised his hand and tried to pierce through the red heart-shaped scarf. It's not like Kakuzu had any idea about the red heart scarf, but it was his habit of killing people this way. Usually for no reason, he would just dig out the heart and play with it. Hexagonal giant shuriken. Not waiting for Kakuzu to dig out the black hand's heart, a female voice rang out from somewhere. Suddenly, an exceptionally large hexagonal shuriken flew over, carrying a whistling sound in the air, and slashed straight towards Kakuzu's two arms. Kakuzu's face was slightly frightened. He quickly withdrew the black hand that was grabbing the heart. The other arm that was grabbing the red scarf around his neck also quickly withdrew. He let go and jumped backwards to avoid. Crackle, crackle. The huge hexagonal shuriken hit the wall, cutting a deep crack into the wall before stopping. Can fly to huge hexagonal shuriken. Far away, not only this one. This one was just to stop Kakuzu, who was killing the red turban. Almost in less than 2 seconds. 3 huge hexagonal shuriken shot straight towards the 3 people from above. Kakuzu, Sasori, and Haydn hurriedly jumped to avoid it, each of them retreating a large distance behind to avoid the huge hexagonal shuriken's attack. Just as their footsteps stabilized, the 3 people following the attack trajectory raised their heads to look back. Under the slightly irritating sunlight shining down, one could see the top of the 3rd floor of the tall building. There were 4 figures standing side by side at the edge, arms crossed, looking down at them. What? These guys? Are you joking? Haydn was a little dissatisfied and complained. But because of the sunlight, it was impossible to clearly see the faces of the 4 people. Only know that there are 2 women inside, wearing a green robe. There is also a bare-armed, muscular man carrying a large sword on his shoulder. Another one looked a bit thin, wearing a purple bodysuit tied behind his back. Mr. Zabuza! Those three must be Akatsuki. Haku stood beside Zabuza, slightly frowning, and asked. Regardless of his appearance, figure, or temperament, he was no different from a woman, so Haydn mistook him for that woman. Looking at that outfit, maybe, so, otherwise I don't know a thing. Zabuza nodded, agreeing. Since practicing 8 Gates release, Zabuza's strength has increased a step, and there are no people who can catch his eye. These bastards. Zabuza glanced around and saw the burned black ninja corpses lying on the ground. Anger immediately appeared on his face. More than 100 people followed him every day to practice, which had lasted for several years. No matter what, Zabuza is no longer the cold-blooded killer he was before. Having been together with the ninja group for so long, he still has quite a few feelings. Suigetsu didn't pay attention to these things either. He used his hand to shade the sun, placed it between his eyebrows, and carefully observed the 3 people. Finally, a look of disappointment flashed across his eyes. Hey, you guys! Why didn't Kisame Hashigaki come with you guys? I've really missed his Samahata great sword for so long. Suigetsu shouted loudly. Haydn frowned slightly, very annoyed, and said, What? These guys are really arrogant. It doesn't matter if we waste a little time killing them. That's obvious. Kakuzu nodded. Just now he was suppressing his anger. This time a few guys who looked to be quite strong came, just in time to vent his anger. Sasori did not say anything, but he was the first to act, launching an attack towards the 4 people on the roof. Only saw his right arm, slightly raised. The black round tube in the palm of his hand began to rotate, emitting a mechanical expansion shaft-type sound. Immediately, the right arm suddenly waved, and a column of water sprayed out from the pitch-black tube. The water column was like a high-pressure water gun, passing through the middle of the wall of the building, cutting off a huge triangle at the corner of the building. The cut was extremely square, the tilted triangle sliding downwards. But the high-pressure water gun still did not stop, cutting straight towards the roof of the 4 people. Zabuza, Haku, and Suigetsu's faces were filled with fear. They quickly jumped down from the great building, hoping to temporarily avoid the sharp edge. But Girin's mouth had a calm smile, standing on the roof without moving. She just slightly raised her left hand, and when the high-pressure water column was less than a meter in front of her, her star release ability was activated. The water column's attack stopped abruptly, turning into a hard pink crystalline solid. And as Sasori's palm continued to release the water column, it also made the hard pink crystal become even more solid, instantly transforming into a very long, crystallized giant dragon. Star-breaking dragon, subduing technique. As Girin gently waved his hand, the star-release giant dragon circled in the air once, heading straight towards Sasori below to counterattack. What kind of ninjutsu is this? A bloodline limit? Sasori's expressionless face also revealed a bit of surprise. He quickly jumped backwards, barely avoiding the star-released giant dragon and the battleship. A loud bang. The ground was pushed out a deep hole by the giant dragon, instantly stirring up a large patch of dust. Bloodline limit? Interesting. I accept your heart. Kakuzu's green eyes released a green light, already starting to attack Girin's ninjutsu. Here are all experts. One can see through Girin's ninjutsu tricks. This kind of ability to crystallize surrounding objects can be said to be a very perverted method. Normal people basically have no way to handle Girin. I'll go deal with that scythe-wielding big guy. Girin will deal with that red-haired one. Haku and Suigetsu will deal with that masked guy. As soon as his feet touched the ground, Zabuza flew straight towards Haydn. At the same time, Zabuza also shouted loudly, directing his teammates to make a series of combat arrangements. From the current situation alone, Zabuza's arrangement was the best choice. The guy holding the sickle, looking at it, is proficient in physical technique, just in time for Zabuza to grow with physical technique, just in time to compete with him. But Girin's spirit ability is quite special. It can restrain many people who are good at ninjutsu. The high-pressure water column ability that Red Hair had just released was indeed very strong, and Girin's spirit release was just enough to counter it. Only the mask is male. Ability is temporarily unknown. Let Haku and Suigetsu deal with it together. It's considered a relatively safe way to deal with it for now. Really, Haku? Do we look down on Zabuza-senpai? He even let us fight 2 against 1. Suigetsu complained, but his movements did not stop for a moment, and he quickly walked towards Kakuzu. Suigetsu, don't underestimate them. Akatsuki people are not that simple. Haku agreed and followed Suigetsu's side. While the two were talking, Zabuza and Haiden fought. The great saber and the great sickle clashed fiercely. And for the time being there was no clear winner. Haiden tried to use the large sickle to scrape some skin off Zabuza's body, completing his own curse ritual. Zabuza also swung his sword towards the vital spot, using all his strength. Jingle! The great saber and the great sickle clashed again, sparks flying. This time the two did not immediately separate, but neither of them gave up and began to compete. The great saber and sickle shook violently. The veins on both of their arms burst open, and the meridians on their necks were like wriggling insects, instantly crawling all over their skin. This guy have a lot of strength. Haiden gritted his teeth and waited for Zabuza. His eyes filled with excitement, as if he was feeling a little happy because he found such a particularly suitable opponent. Humph! Your strength is too small, Zabuza said loudly, but in his heart, huge waves were already stirring up, amazed at the powerful physical technique mastery before his eyes. You must know, Zabuza's own physical technique is not bad. In addition, in recent years of cultivating the 8 gates Duanjia, his body has also become extremely strong, absolutely not something that ordinary body technique experts can fight against. But this big junior in front of him has been fighting against him for so long, still not losing the advantage. On the other side, the small group responsible for attacking Sasori and Kakuzu's 3 people also arrived within the attack range, unleashing their own ninjutsu, launching a series of powerful attacks. Haku's right arm trembled slightly, and a few silver needles slid down from his sleeve, clamping them in the gap in the middle. As he formed several hand seals with one hand, the surrounding air temperature suddenly dropped quite a bit, and a bit of white ice mist appeared. Mist teleportation technique. Haku's entire body transformed into a Rasengan, spinning rapidly and launching straight towards Kakuzu. This guy isn't simple. Kakuzu's face was slightly shocked, but he was not too flustered after being through 100 battles. Seeing that he could not keep up with the opponent's speed, he simply stood there, not wanting to dodge. Both hands unknowingly formed an earth release hand seal. The entire body's skin turned black, completely hard and deformed. The Rasen Kaze stopped. Haku surrounded Kakuzu behind. Right hand held several silver Senbon needles between fingers, forcefully stabbed towards Kakuzu's back. Kung! The very long silver needle pierced through the black robe, but was unable to pierce even a single inch of Kakuzu's skin, emitting a crisp sound. Bai Jian was shocked, realizing that the situation was a bit off. It seemed that this Akatsuki defender was extremely abnormal. Appearing behind someone else's back is a very dangerous choice. Kakuzu turned his head slightly and looked back, his green eyes glaring at Haku. As soon as he finished speaking, the ground under Haku's feet shook. One hand grabbed the ground and suddenly crawled out, straight towards Haku's neck. The other hand connected to each moving black line. The speed was extremely fast. Under the situation where he was completely unprepared, Haku only had time to widen his eyes, watching the hand rapidly enlarge before his eyes. His throat suddenly tightened. Haku was choked by the neck. Disgusting. This guy. He's planning to use this trick to lure me up this early in the morning. Eating without pain. Half-open eyes looked at Kakuzu, only then discovered Kakuzu's right hand, not knowing when the hand was gone. But there was a mass of wriggling black lines pouring into the ground below his feet, and a hand from another place was emerging from under his feet. But fortunately, this feeling of being strangled did not last long, as teammate Suigetsu ran over and launched an attack towards Kakuzu. Tick-tock! The water drops fell to the ground. Suigetsu retreated a bit and disappeared from sight. Mizu's body flicker technique was activated. In the next blink of an eye, he was already beside Kakuzu. Water release Mizu wrist. Suigetsu raised his right arm, clenched it into a fist, and a large amount of energy was concentrated in his body behind his right arm. The originally seemingly weak arm instantly expanded into chunks of solid muscle, the entire arm becoming twice as large as before. A powerful punch was swung out, directly hitting Kakuzu's face. Kakuzu's eyes revealed disdain. At this moment, his body's stiff state had not yet been abolished. Using a fist like this to attack, what effect could it have on him? Raising his left arm to protect his cheeks, he grabbed towards Suigetsu's fist. Break! The moment the palm made contact, Kakuzu only felt a huge force transmitted from his palm. following his broken arm back, the AC. Immediately after that, the other hand that grabbed Haku's neck let go because he couldn't control the force. The entire person's body was shot out from the ground and bounced several meters away. Only then did it stop with great difficulty. Perhaps the impact of this power source was too great. Kakuzu lay on the ground for about 2 to 3 seconds, not moving at all. But the Earth-release body hardening ability is also not for show. Even though he flew out in a very disheveled state, and his cloak had left a bunch of large holes on the ground, Kakuzu's body was still safe and sound. You too. You made me angry again. Kakuzu sat up, glaring at Suigetsu and Haku with angry eyes, then slowly stood up from the ground. Kakuzu reached out and ripped off his broken right arm. The sound of bones cracking rang out. The already severely twisted and deformed arm was forcefully forced back together. Then, Kakuzu grabbed his black robe collar and pulled it outward with force. The black robe on his body peeled off and was thrown aside. Kakuzu's curvaceous upper body, with its stitched marks, was also completely exposed. I can't think of Ninetales Jinchuriki's subordinates, and there are also a bunch of guys with pretty good strength. That's good. Then today I'll let you guys gain a little knowledge of my true strength. As he spoke, Kakuzu let out a strange sound, and the skin on his back began to rapidly twitch. As the frequency of the movement increased, fur masks rose up behind Kakuzu, as if they were about to break out from within his body. Finally, the stitches on Kakuzu's back closed, and a rumble of ice appeared. Fur demon masks with a whoosh sound rushed out from Kakuzu's body. Behind the masks carried a large number of black lines. This is Kakuzu's special ability. Earth Grudge Stupidity. This guy? What the hell is he? Suigetsu saw the stunned expression. Just now he was still surprised that Kakuzu took his punch and was fine. But Kakuzu's next move made his heart tremble. Or rather, Kakuzu's body's image of being blown up, combined with the 4 demon masks on his body, looked extremely disgusting. While talking in horror, the lines on the 4 demon masks quickly softened into simple human forms. Has arms and legs, black as ink, combined with a mask that acts as a face. Can barely be counted as human. Heard long ago that Akatsuki people are all monsters. Only after personally encountering Suigetsu did he understand. This is truly a monster with perversion. Haku, are you okay? It seems like this monster is not easy to deal with. We should be careful next time. Suigetsu glared at Haku, reminding him. Cough cough, I'm fine. I'm late. Thank you for saving me. Just at this moment, Haku squatted on the ground, covering Kurenai's neck that was being strangled, coughing nonstop. At this time, he had changed for the better, standing up shoulder to shoulder with Suigetsu, looking at the black line monsters opposite, his face covered with solemnity. Suigetsu, we should still try our best to fight defensively. We should buy enough time and wait for Naruto-kun to come to our aid. Just when Natsuki went to inform the 4 of them that the Akatsuki organization was invading the village, Haku also arranged for him to immediately run back to the base and report this matter to Hinata. As long as Hinata informs Naruto about the situation left behind at the Shadow Clone base, Naruto should be able to immediately rush back to reinforce. It's just that this side is a bit far from Min and Village base, so it might still take a bit of time. I know, don't worry. I won't be reckless. Suigetsu nodded. What? You forced me to use this form, and yet you don't dare to attack me again. In that case, I won't be polite. Kakuzu snorted softly, clasping his hands in front of his chest and forming a seal. Fire release is a pain in the asceticism. Boom boom tilde tilde tilde. The fire attribute Earth Resentment demon mask suddenly opened its mouth wide. A large mass of fire like a cannonball sprayed out, sweeping towards Suigetsu and Haku. Haku and Suigetsu's faces were filled with fear. They quickly bent their knees and jumped up, stepping on the wall of a tall building and running towards the heights. The fire on the central street exploded, hitting the large building, forming a wave of fire that shot straight up into the sky. Unfortunately, it was not possible to cause damage to Suigetsu and Haku. The attack was unsuccessful. Kakuzu once again clasped his hands in front of his chest and formed a seal. Water curtain technique. The water attribute Earth Resentment demon ran forward. The demon mask opened its mouth wide, spitting out a large stream of water, heading towards Suigetsu and Haku. Suigetsu and Haku jumped again, stepping on the wall of the castle to avoid it. In a moment, a column of water about 3 or 4 meters wide, with an extremely fast speed, stuck to Suigetsu and Haku's butts and chased after them. But Suigetsu and Haku were like two agile monkeys, dodging left and right in the middle, always able to dodge just in time. The wall of the Great Tower was impacted by the force of that huge water column, causing it to break into large cracks. Before it could last for long, the wall completely crumbled and collapsed with a loud crash. When Kakuzu and Suigetsu fought, Girin and Sasori also fought in the same way. Girin ran towards Sasori, who needed to go through the past while waving his hands continuously. One by one, the pink crystallized shuriken were thrown out, dancing and spinning in the air, screaming as they charged towards Sasori. Sasori dodged left and right, reached out and grabbed his black robe collar, pulled it out with force, and threw the black robe to the ground, revealing his puppet body. The appearance has not changed from before, still the same red-haired young man's puppet. Only that chest had a large Sasori character. The place that was considered the biggest flaw had also been completely repaired. Following that, the round tube carrying the Sasori heart mark also disappeared without a trace. It was unknown what method Sasori used to hide it. Ninja-type crystal release? Crystallizing all matter, then what does this thing look like? Sasori muttered. His right hand reached behind his back and took out a scroll. Following the trembling hand wave in the middle, the scroll was opened, revealing a two character. Break! The white mist exploded, and the scroll above the two words disappeared without a trace. A pitch-black puppet appeared in front of Sasori. This was obviously Sasori's modified third Kazekage puppet. This guy, is he a puppet master? Girin's face was shocked. Seeing the chakra thread connected to Sasori's hand, he immediately recognized that he was a puppet master. What surprised Girin was that Sasori's body was actually a puppet. If you say so, the art of spirit control and speed. Girin made hand seals with both hands, and sharp earth elements rapidly grew from under her feet. The ground was densely packed with tiny things, taller than a person, growing like wild thorn bushes, rapidly spreading towards Sasori. Sasori was not confused. He brought the third Kazekage puppets and continuously dodged backwards, avoiding the earth's wind. Crack, crack. The ground level brought both sides of the street small stalls, tables and chairs, all transparent, mounted high up. Sasori brought the third Kazekage puppet. Retreated about 10 meters, those earth things finally stopped. Success! Not waiting for Sasori to slow down, Girin's voice suddenly rang out from above. Looking up, Girin didn't know when, but had stepped on the wall and ran, reaching above his head, clasping his hands in front of his chest, completing a set of ninjutsu hand seals. Star-breaking twin dragon subduing technique. As Girin's two palms collided with the two giant pillars in front of him, the concrete pillars rapidly turned into a crystallized state, transforming into two very long, crystallized giant dragons. The giant dragons circled around, landing head down towards the Sasori and the ship passing by. Looking at the two crystallized giant dragons rushing towards him in different directions, Sasori's puppet face did not have any confusion. He just danced with his fingers, using the chakra thread on his fingertips to control the third Kazekage puppet. The third Kazekage opened his mouth, and a large amount of black sand flew out like tiny mosquitoes. Then, the sand iron rapidly gathered together, forming a thick sand iron shield in front of Sasori. A loud bang. The two crystallized giant dragons collided with a 3-meter-wide giant shield. Immediately, the sand iron exploded with a loud bang, splattering and leaving two large holes. Able to hide behind the shield behind Sasori. Also, because of the shield's resistance to gain enough time to escape, he had already dodged towards the back and jumped away, escaping to the outside of the attack range. Two giant dragons and ships on the ground. The ground was once again torn open with two large holes, sand and rocks flying everywhere. But Sasori was still safe and sound. Sasori's fingers danced again, and the third Kazekage flew towards Girin. The puppet's body trembled, making a creaking sound. At the same time, the large piles of black sand that had been split off from the ground once again flew away under control, like countless mosquitoes, sweeping towards Girin's side. Humph! Useless. Any material object is useless against me. Girin confidently smiled, letting those sand irons dance towards her. She didn't have any intention of retreating. In an instant, a pile of black sand covered the sky and earth and charged straight towards Girin. Girin waved his hands in several hand seals, then shouted softly. Crystallization technique. Boom boom. The sand iron covered the less than 1 meter of space in front of Giran, suddenly stopping and not moving forward. As Giran's star release ability was activated, the large area covered by those sand irons was rapidly engulfed and devoured by the pink crystals. In less than a moment, a huge layer of pink crystallized barrier condensed out in front of Giran. And that pink crystallized fence inside is hidden with tiny sand devices wrapped inside. This is Giran's special Kekiai Genkai, which crystallizes all objects. Humph Sasori's puppet face revealed a trace of disdainful smile. As his fingers danced in the middle, the tips of his fingers connected to the chakra thread. The chakra thread at the tail connected to the third Kazakage puppet, and its pair of arms suddenly opened. Boom boom tilde tilde tilde. That huge pink crystallized fence suddenly had spider web-like cracks. Then the black sand iron broke through the crystallized barrier and transformed into countless sea mosquitoes, spreading towards Giran. What? How is this possible? Giran couldn't believe his eyes. Everything was going smoothly, but now it's losing its effectiveness. How is this possible? Your spirit is not without weaknesses. At least my sand iron contains a large amount of chakra, so even if it is devoured by those crystals, it can still keep in touch with me. So, your words are useless against me, Sasori said in a low voice, but his hand movements did not stop. Satai Taivu. Chakra threads continuously swayed. The third Kazakage also controlled those black sand irons, rapidly condensing them into sand iron bullets, shooting towards Giran. Hoo. The sand bullets were flying in the air like raindrops, completely covering the area where Giran was standing. Giran only managed to retreat less than 2 meters behind. The sand iron bullet had already attacked in front. The light of the essence. At the critical moment, Giran spread out his arms, and a large area of pink crystallization rapidly spread around his body. In a flash, a thick crystallized fence cage appeared, protecting Giran's entire body inside. Ding, ding, dang, dang. Tiny sand bullets hit the crystallized fence above, leaving a deep hole. As the hole deepened, a large depression appeared on the crystallized fence. But this Giran technique is not that simple. As her chakra release increased, the damaged crystal barrier unexpectedly grew and healed at a visible speed. Despite the healing speed, there is no sand iron bullet attack speed destruction. But Giran gritted his teeth and persevered, barely managing to withstand this wave of sand iron bullet attacks. Not bad defense. So, how about this move? Sasori's fingers danced again. The chakra thread waved in the middle, and the third Kazakage's puppet started to move again. The sand iron that was sprayed out of his mouth rapidly increased. At the moment when the sand iron shell attack just finished, a roughly 10-meter-tall, diamond-shaped, triangular pendant was already flying down towards the crystallized barrier ship. Oh no! Before Giran could even take a breath, he felt the top of his head go dark. When he raised his head and saw the huge cone, he had no choice but to immediately give up the crystallized barrier that covered him and quickly undulated backwards. Maybe her speed is still a little slow. The crystallized barrier shattered with a rustling sound, and Giran's arm was also torn by that diamond-shaped body, leaving a trail of blood. Immediately, the triangular diamond-shaped body slammed like crazy on Giran's body. A huge force caused her entire body to fly backwards. Giran's body was like a cannonball, flying more than 10 meters away. Bang! Her back hit a wall. Then she stopped, falling heavily to the ground. Cough, cough. Waves of pain came from his internal organs. Giran covered his chest and coughed out a large mouthful of blood. But she still refused to give up, gritted her teeth, and leaned against the wall, her legs trembling as she slowly stood up. Raising her head to look back at Sasori. Why do you still want to stand up? With your current body, what can you do? You have been poisoned by me. You won't live more than 3 days. Sasori stopped manipulating the third Kazakage's puppet and stood there quietly looking at Giran. What? Giran's face was startled, hearing Sasori talk about being poisoned. It was as if the wound on his left arm was sending waves of intense pain throughout his body. This kind of pain is definitely not a wound that opens a hole. It must have some level of pain. Finally, the poison traveled through the bloodstream and spread throughout Giran's body. Giran felt his body instantly stiffen, and he felt a sharp pain like needles stabbing him. Finally, he couldn't stand up straight and fell to the ground with a thud. Disgusting? Am I really going to die here? Giran! Suigetsu also discovered Giran's abnormality. Seeing Gyuren's collapse, his heart immediately burned with anxiety. It's not that Suigetsu has any intentions towards Gyuren, but rather, seeing his teammates fall while on his and Haku's side. He was slowly holding onto the opponent, unable to be impatient. Crack! While Suigetsu was stunned for a moment, a bolt of lightning as big as a thigh struck straight towards his face. Suigetsu was shocked and broke out in cold sweat. He quickly rolled away from the spot, not daring to be distracted or careless anymore, and wholeheartedly began to fight. Hideous! Water style, Mizu disperse. Suigetsu made hand seals with both hands. Water release seal form completed. His jaw was high and his skull was tilted back. And long and thin streams of water were sprayed out of Suigetsu's mouth. Suigetsu was like a machine gunner, sweeping towards Kakuzu. Crackle. As the first water line curved and the ship hit the ground, the concrete ground instantly shattered, creating a deep small hole. Kakuzu's face was shocked. He immediately realized that something was wrong. He quickly brought the 5 Earth Grudge Fools and jumped to dodge, climbing up the wall behind the building. This time, Suigetsu changed his machine gun and chased after Kakuzu. The tiny water currents curved like bullets, piercing a deep hole in the wall. In the sky, a white owl spread its wings and flew around, occasionally approaching the dense crowd. The blond man standing on the owl's back would occasionally raise his hand to twitch his left electronic eye, adjusting the focus to glance at the crowd, as if he was searching for something. Disgusting. Where the hell is the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki? When will we find it? Before arriving, Itachi and Kisame explain in detail the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki's unique appearance. Tong wore an orange sports suit, had the same blonde hair as Deidara, and had a 6 paths beard on his face. Deidara searched for a long time, but still did not see anyone with this kind of special appearance, and immediately got a little angry. That is, Ninja Village. Finally, Deidara saw a village ahead of the lake. That place is a piece of luxurious architectural complex area. There are quite a few ninja wearing blue undergarments, occasionally running in such an area. Oh my! There could be no mistake over there. The Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki should be in that village, yes. Deidara controlled the owl and flew towards the other side of the ninja village. If he couldn't find the Jinchuriki again, he wouldn't be able to help but want to drop a heavy bomb first, using his art to raze this village to the ground. On the other side, Zabuza's 4-man team's battle continued. Gyuren was completely poisoned, his body paralyzed, losing his ability to resist. Sasori also had no choice but to go up, finishing off Gyuren's life. Just because Sasori knew being poisoned by him would naturally want to die. Although this time the meeting was a little late, perhaps that woman admitted to suffering more. Sasori also did not choose to join Kakuzu and Haiden's fight. He just found a position against the wall, quietly watching these people fight to the death. Suigetsu had just finished a counterattack, but it didn't last long before he was once again suppressed by Kakuzu's 5 Earth Wrathful Monkey's firepower. Although Haku was proficient in ice release, under the large-range bombardment of Earth Grudge and Go, he was unable to even get close, let alone help Suigetsu complete his counterattack. As for Zabuza and Haiden, after their previous confrontation, they began a new round of confrontation. The two of them fought until their heads were covered in sweat, and they were panting, but neither of them could do anything about it. Gyuren has fallen, Suigetsu and Haku are also suppressed. I'm afraid they won't be able to hold on for too long. Zabuza was distracted observing his teammate's situation on the other side. He knew that the current situation was extremely disadvantageous to him. That red-haired puppet-manipulating guy was just standing to the side, not doing anything. If he also joined the battle, then our side would have lost by now. No. That Naruto guy doesn't know how long it will take before he arrives. I must shoulder the responsibility of protecting the village. I can't let everyone die at the hands of this bunch of scoundrels. Zabuza made up his mind in his heart, gritting his teeth as if making some kind of decision. You damn masked muscular man. You still have time to be distracted while fighting me. Haiden saw Zabuza's weakness. Without saying a word, he swung his large sickle and charged straight at Zabuza. Zabuza had no choice but to counterattack, and in a very confusing manner. He cut off the head with his great sword and stuck it into the ground. Immediately, he stood with his arms crossed in front of him, his forehead showing blue veins. Go to hell? At this time, Haiden had already reached the attack range. Both hands gripping the hilt of the great scythe, he swung it towards Zabuza with a bit of force. 8 gates done, Jia. 5th gate, open. Boom! A large patch of green steam rose from Zabuza's body, forming a wave of air that radiated outwards. Disgusting. What happened? Haydn was stunned, unable to open his eyes. Even the great sickle in his hand received a resistance, being blown away and unable to cut Zabuza's body. Immediately afterwards, even Haydn's previously charged body, because of the impact of that green steam wave, was blown backwards, leaving behind footprints resembling two Taoist priests on the ground. You are the one who deserves to die. Zabuza's entire body's skin turned jet black, and his hair stood on end from the steam. He felt his whole body filled with explosive power. One hand tightly gripped the great saber and cut off the hilt. With a whoosh sound, he transformed into a remnant image and flew straight towards Haydn. So fast! Haydn's face was filled with fear, only to see Zabuza disappear more than 10 meters away. Then in the blink of an eye, he was already in front of him, both hands tightly gripping the large sword's hilt, slashing towards him. Of course, Haydn was not that careful. He just barely saw Zabuza and the large sword beheading, and from there deduced this series of movements. Just because Zabuza's speed is really too fast. But just like that, Haydn still had a chance to defend, and wouldn't be too late to react. He blocked the large sickle in front of him, just in time to block the large decapitation knife that was about to attack. As the great saber cut off the blade, and the sickle, and the ship in the blink of an eye, Haydn only felt a huge force transmitted between his two hands. And then his tiger's mouth was completely torn apart, fresh blood gushing out. Then, his body flew out like a cannonball. With a loud bang, it crashed into a thick wall, and was buried in the rubble by falling bricks. Humph! This guy really has nothing else, only knows one type of pure physical technique. Zabuza snorted softly, his face showing disdain, looking at Haydn, who was buried under the rubble, and shook his head. Even though the great saber's decapitation did not sever the opponent's life, but this kind of enormous force caused even the dense walls to collapse. That big head could not possibly have a chance to survive. Haku, wait for me. Concerned about his comrade's safety, Zabuza no longer hesitated, holding his great sword in his hand. He turned around and charged towards Haku. You bastard! Who are you talking about? There's nothing else. Eh? The ruined bricks made a noise. Haydn rushed out from the middle, his face full of anger as he waited for Zabuza's back. He swung the large sickle in his hand and swung it towards Zabuza. Haydn's black robe was torn and covered in stains. The corner of his lips curled up into a bloodline. His body was covered in wounds, and there was even a broken steel rod stuck in his back that had not been pulled out. Just as Zabuza thought in his heart, if it were a normal person, after encountering such heavy damage, they would definitely have died. Unfortunately, Haydn is not an ordinary person. He is an immortal being. No matter how seriously injured he is, he will not die easily. Oh! The great sickle in the air rotated and danced, rubbing against the air, creating a series of wind-tearing sounds, hitting straight towards Zabuza's back. What? Zabuza turned his head to look back, and found Haydn standing up from the ruins again. A trace of fear appeared in his heart. But at this moment, the great sickle shot straight towards the back. Zabuza didn't have much time to consider. The great beheading saber in his hand swung back, sending the great sickle flying. You're not dead yet? Looks like I have to personally kill you. The great sword that was about to behead him swung back at the same time. Zabuza quickly turned around, roared, and turned into an afterimage again, flying straight towards Haydn. In Zabuza's eyes, Haydn was dead for sure this time. Without that difficult-to-kill large sickle to protect himself, and Haydn couldn't keep up with his speed, completely crushed by his strength. How could he fight him? But for some reason, when Zabuza arrived in front of Haydn, holding his large sword in both hands and swinging it towards him, he saw a strange smile appear on the corner of Haydn's mouth. Dieti. In battle, the most taboo thing is to be indecisive. Often life and death are in a single thought. Therefore, although Zabuza felt a little uneasy, he still, without any hesitation, swung his great sword and slashed towards Haydn. Jingle! Haydn held a sharp black iron staff in one hand and used it to block Zabuza's decapitation with his greatsword. As expected, with a deafening metallic crash, Haydn's strength was no match for Zabuza's massive swing. The black iron staff was smashed back and hit Haydn's back, causing Haydn's backbones to crack and break. Although the great saber that beheaded him had some of its force dissipated by the black iron rod, its momentum still did not stop. The blade had about a third of its blade, and it all entered Haydn's body, and Haydn's body once again flew out like a cannonball. Like a gourd rolling on the street, it rolled about a dozen meters before stopping. This guy, Zabuza's sighed. The moment the great saber cut off his head and the black iron club collided, he realized that something was wrong with the situation. Behind came a loud noise. The big sickle that was just chopped off by him with a great saber sent flying, but it actually spun around and flew straight back towards him. Looking at the steel rope beside him, Zabuza immediately made a judgment in his heart. I'm afraid that Haydn, at the moment the great sickle was chipped and sent flying, had already used this steel rope to pull the great sickle back, launching a two-stage sneak attack at once. So, Haydn's smile just now meant this. He wanted to use this kind of method to counterattack. Zabuza's thoughts were circulating at lightning speed. But on the battlefield, battle was only a blink of an eye. Puffy. Zabuza leaned to the side to avoid it. The sickle beside him flew past. Only the tip of the sickle broke through Zabuza's shoulder skin, leaving a bright red ring hanging on the sickle blade above, finally falling to the ground, rubbing off a piece of fire. Returning to Haydn's side, the side's counterattack angle was completely precise and cunning, and the great side's attack range was also wide enough. But unfortunately, it did not cause fatal damage to Zabuza. It hurts so much. You bastard. Haydn covered his waist, raised his head, and glared at Zabuza angrily, then pushed himself up from the ground and slowly crawled up. You're still not dead? Zabuza's eyes revealed fear. He never thought that Haydn's life force would be so stubborn. Although the great saber did not cut off the man's head, the sharpness of the blade was not much different, but it cut off a third of his lower abdomen. Receiving this level of injury, could that guy actually stand up with someone who was fine, shout out a few words of pain, and be done with it? Idiot! I will never die, you idiots! You atheists! Haydn screamed madly for a while. This strong man in front of him made him suffer a lot, but now, all the situations were in his favor. Good. It's almost time to start the counterattack. One of them lifted up the big sickle on the ground, his face full of excitement as he stuck out his tongue, licked the fresh Kurenai blood on the sickle blade, and swallowed it. Immediately, he stepped on the ground, leaving behind a large pool of blood, and a strange circular pattern was drawn on the ground. This guy, what the hell does he want to do? Zabuza looked at the opponent's strange behavior, vaguely feeling something was wrong. Hurriedly gripped the large sword in his hand and cut off his head, transforming into an afterimage and shooting towards Haydn. But Haydn rolled away about 20 meters away. Zabuza was fast and couldn't catch up in a blink of an eye. The ritual is complete. Haydn's entire body's skin turned shiny black, and a sickly smile appeared on his face. Looking at the charging Zabuza, Haydn gripped the iron rod tightly with both hands, thrusting it towards his thigh with a bit of force. Puffy. The iron rod penetrated the entire thigh. Kurenai's fresh blood followed the iron rod's sharp tip, slowly dripping onto the ground. On the other side, just rushed more than 10 meters away from Zabuza, suddenly felt intense pain from his thigh. His body lost balance and fell to the ground with a thud. How? It hurts so much. You made me look like this again. I will definitely make you receive the punishment of the evil god, and teach you the most terrifying punishment from the evil god. Haydn let out a perverted laugh, looking at the fallen Zabuza, unable to get up, his eyes filled with excitement and madness. The curse ritual has been completed. Now, as long as he wants, he can take Zabuza's life at any time. Being able to have such a good prey, he needs to slowly enjoy it. Enjoy that kind of fear and dread that his enemy's eyes reveal. This will make his blood boil. Disgusting, what the hell happened? Zabuza covered his painful thigh, revealing his hand to examine. His entire leg already had a wound that pierced through it. Fresh blood was dripping down. What is this all about? Obviously, the distance between him and the opponent was still so far. Why would he launch such an attack on him? Zabuza is not Shikamaru. He does not have 220 intelligence. Nor does he have such strong analytical ability, able to make a judgment in an instant. Even if Haydn stabbed his thigh, Zabuza's thigh would be injured, and based on this information, there was no way to know clearly what it was. You bastard. Zabuza raised his head, his eyes filled with anger as he glared at Haydn. He lifted the large sword beside him and beheaded him. He pushed himself up from the ground and limped towards Haydn. Hey, you really don't listen to advice. If you say so, then you might as well cripple your other leg. Haydn reluctantly let go of his hand, immediately once again clenched the iron rod with both hands, and stabbed it into his other thigh. Puffy. The iron rod pierced through the thigh, blood dripping down. Ah! Zabuza screamed again, fell to the ground with a thud. Unable to even hold the large sword that was cutting off his head, the pain made his entire body tremble faintly. How does it feel? It's so addictively painful. Ah? Ah. So, where should we stab next? Hayden's hand grabbed the black iron rod, using the sharp iron rod to poke at his arm, stomach, shoulder, and other places. Looking at Zabuza's frightened eyes, the smile on the corner of his mouth became even more perverted. Mr. Zabuza! On the other side, Kakuzu fought Haku, also paying attention to Zabuza's situation. Haku was just facing a massive wind release attack, not seeing Zabuza fall for the first time. But at this moment, Zabuza was struggling to fall face down in a pool of blood, and Haku saw it very clearly. Immediately, Haku cried out in alarm, his face filled with fear and anxiety. Afraid that his life, the most important thing in it, would just like that die here. Influenced by Haku, Suigetsu couldn't help but turn his head to look behind. Seeing Zabuza covered in blood, Suigetsu's face immediately turned red with horror. How could this be? Was Senior Zabuza defeated? Suigetsu was very clear about how powerful Zabuza was. Except for the first time returning to Minin Village, Suigetsu had discussed with Zabuza once outside to borrow Samahada's greatsword. Later, he also sought out Zabuza to compete countless times. But each time Zabuza won, he never won. Such a powerful Senior Zabuza was actually defeated by that senior's head. How could this be? Do you still have time to be distracted when you were fighting with me? You are too careless. Kakuzu snorted softly, clasped his hands in front of his chest, and formed a seal, seizing the opportunity to sneak attack. Lightning style is a dark illusion. The thunder attribute Earth Grudge and Go ran for a while to the appropriate attack position. The mask suddenly opened its mouth wide. A large mass of lightning light sprayed out, forming a large, dazzling electric net, heading towards Suigetsu and the white paper. Oh no! Suigetsu's face was filled with fear. He turned around and saw that the electric light covered the entire road. It was about 3 to 4 meters high, with no place to dodge. What's more important is that the lightning attack was too fast. He and Haku didn't have time to dodge. Crackle. The electric light covered the two people's bodies. Immediately, the two of them let out miserable screams, flying straight backwards. Rolling on the ground more than 10 meters away, the two people's bodies probably had many places covered in electric shock wounds. In this kind of seriously injured situation, I'm afraid there is not much ability to fight back. Mr. Zabuza? Haku's mind was completely in chaos, completely ignoring the enemy staring at him, looking at Zabuza's eyes filled with worry. Hidden Village. In the sky, a white owl was circling. Deidara stood on the owl's back, searching for the Jinchuriki for a while. But after searching for so long, Deidara gradually lost his patience and did not intend to continue searching blindly like that. Since the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki didn't appear, how do I force him to appear? Ah! Deidara smiled, an idea already forming in his mind. So many buildings, I don't know which one the Nine-Tails is hiding in. As long as I create enough chaos, the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki will not act like a black turtle, withdrawing its head and not coming out. Just thinking about it, Deidara's two hands already probed into the ninja tool in the bag. The pair of hands once again held out. The palm of the mouth flattened, spitting out 6 small clay birds. He casually waved his hand down, and the little clay bird fell from the sky. Following Deidara's earth release seal formation, with a few bangs, the little clay bird exploded with white mist, transforming into 6 1-meter-long giant clay birds. The big bird flapped its wings, hovering in the air and dancing. First there were 2, found right on the street of Minin Village, 2 ninja patrol squad, one head fiercely stabbed down. Screech! Deidara let out a low shout, and the clay bird exploded with a loud bang. Immediately, a fire exploded, and black smoke filled the air in all directions. Before the 2 ninja teams could understand the situation, 5 or 6 people on the spot were blown to pieces. There were also some ninjas who were lucky enough to survive. But they were all blown up until they vomited blood. Their bodies were covered with burnt scars from the explosion. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! For a moment, the ninja group panicked and searched for cover to avoid them. On the street past the villagers, also scared the whole group to scream continuously, holding their heads and heading straight towards the nearest house building. Up there, it's that white owl! Patrol squad members, all equipped with telescopes, Although the Wave Country is a small country, its territory is quite large, and when the ninjas patrol, they often need to use telescopes to observe distant situations. Immediately, with a sensitive-feeling ninja, through the telescope under the vision, saw Deidara in the sky. Disgusting. How could this be? Who was the enemy in the end? At such a height, Sora. We have no way to counterattack. What should we do? Don't mind, you guys quickly evacuate the villagers here. I'll go find Miss Hinata and report the situation to her. The surviving ninja group looked at the owl in the sky with horror in their eyes, and spoke continuously in discussion. Deidara naturally had no interest in those cats and dogs, and continued to control the other clay birds to fly towards the other waves of dense ninja crowds, launching the next wave of attacks. Boom boom tilde tilde tilde. Boom boom tilde tilde tilde. The explosions continued again and again. Every time the clay bird exploded, the sky-high flames took away the lives of many hidden ninja. In a moment, the bustling and prosperous scene of Minin Village had just been completely chaotic. The ninja group jumped onto the rooftops, but the attack distance was too far, but still held Deidara with no way. The villagers were so scared that they ran back home, and no one dared to wander around on the streets. Minin Village, a luxurious high-rise building inside. Miss Hinata, that's exactly what happened. Natsuki knelt down on one knee in front of Hinata and told her everything about the situation where the other 3 members of the Akatsuki organization invaded. I know. Hinata nodded, immediately attracted by the explosion outside. She quickly walked to the window, pushed it open, and looked outside. When she saw those hidden village ninjas standing on the rooftop, and also that special-looking owl inside, she immediately understood that the Akatsuki organization had invaded this place. Such a high altitude, we have no way to fight back. We must quickly call Naruto back. Hinata made up her mind and quickly walked towards the back of the hall. After entering a room, Hinata looked at Naruto's shadow clone sitting cross-legged on the bed, his expression solemn as he said, "Quickly notify the main body. The hidden village is in trouble. Return immediately to help." I know. The shadow clone agreed, exploding into a white mist and disappearing. Estimated past less than 5 seconds. Wow! 4 figures suddenly appeared and stood beside Hinata. This was just at the Taichi Country Market. Naruto's 4-man squad went for a walk. After receiving the news of the shadow clone, they immediately led people to activate the Flying Thunder God technique and rush back. What the hell happened? Hinata, what happened? Naruto looked at Hinata with a solemn expression. The shadow clone just said that the hidden village was in trouble, but didn't go into specifics. Hinata let out a soft breath, seeing Naruto return. Her worried heart finally calmed down a bit. Naruto-kun. It's Akatsuki. Akatsuki people came to invade our village. Akatsuki? Naruto's face was slightly frightened. Hinata nodded. Yes. Zabuza. Gurin, Sujetsu, Haku. For people. Right at the entrance of the Land of Waves on the other side of the square, deal with 3 Akatsuki members. And in the sky above the hidden village, there is also an Akatsuki member who uses explosive release. He has been bombing the hidden village for a long time. The attack distance is too far. There is no way we can catch him. Hinata told the general situation once. While she was explaining the situation, from time to time, loud explosions could be heard outside. Naruto heard Zabuza and the others were dealing with Akatsuki and immediately had a bad feeling in his heart. Naruto was still clear about the strength of Zabuza and the 4 of them. Each one was very strong, and Gurin's spirit release was extremely special. But their strength is only for normal ninjas. The people in the Akatsuki organization are all perverts. Cannot be considered in normal situations. Taking Zabuza and the 4 of them to deal with it, I'm afraid there will be danger. Sending 4 people at once? You really have your eyes on me. Naruto snorted softly, a hint of anger appearing on his face. The 4 Akatsuki members came to Minin Village. Their purpose naturally couldn't be to simply cause destruction. The only reason, I'm afraid, will be to capture this 9-tailed Jinchuriki. Besides wondering, Naruto also quickly walked towards the outside of the room and rushed out. In the air, after Deidara had completed a successful bombing and destruction, he did not see the 9-tails Jinchuriki's figure from beginning to end. A trace of disappointment could not help but appear on his face. Really, half a day of work is all for nothing? Looks like the 9-tailed Jinchuriki isn't in this village either. As he spoke, Deidara's hand probed into the clay ninja tool in its sheath. When he took out his hand again, his palm flattened, spitting out a snowman-like doll. If that's the case, then this lavishly decorated ninja village doesn't need to exist. Just use C3 to solve it in one go. Deidara waved his hand gently, and the puppet in his hand was thrown out. Favor. Deidara Earth Release Form Seal. The little snowman suddenly burst into a large white mist with a thud. In the next blink of an eye, the white mist dissipated, and the little snowman puppet had transformed into a giant puppet over 10 meters tall. Using a rapid descent method, it fell straight towards the central position of Min and Village. This is Deidara C3 number 18. The explosive power is enough to reach a radius of 10 kilometers. As long as this puppet explodes in Min and Village, Min and Village will be completely razed to the ground. How is that possible? Is that thing also a grenade? What a joke! Such a big puppet grenade. Why can't it blow up our entire village? On the rooftops, the ninjas of the hidden village were all ashen-faced, looking up at the puppets falling straight down from the sky. Just now, Deidara created those dozens of explosive attacks. They also witnessed it with their own eyes. Such a small flying bird can create such explosive impact waves. Now comes such a huge explosion puppet. What the hell is this plane doing? Everyone, let's all observe a few seconds of silence, waiting for death to come. Ninja Group's hearts were half cold. Many people were scared to the point of wet pants. Screech! Deidara shouted loudly, his eyes revealing excitement, the moment he witnessed his own art. But before the puppet could explode, an orange figure suddenly stepped on the building and jumped continuously, dodging and reaching the puppet below. He held a specially made Hiraition kunai in both hands, supporting the puppet's butt. Immediately afterwards, a large circle of black lines spread out in the air, completely surrounding the puppet's butt. Next, in the blink of an eye, with a whoosh, the orange color and the huge clay puppet disappeared into the sky together. Roaring, several hundred kilometers above the sea, a world-shaking sound rang out. An explosive flame shot straight up to the horizon. How could this be? What is going on? Deidara was stunned, looking at the distant sea surface where the waves of fire exploded, somewhat unable to believe his eyes. Where is C3 number 18? How come the horse pedal suddenly like that is not there? What to do? Wow! In the next blink of an eye, an orange figure flashed back and stood in a large courtyard of the hidden village. He raised his head and quietly looked at Deidara, raising a middle finger towards him. The nine-tails Jinchuriki appeared. Disgusting. This damned bastard. Deidara looked at Naruto's unfriendly gesture and immediately felt angry. Angry than angry. He also did not lose his mind because of it. Always good at analyzing combat, he immediately understood what was going on. Could it be that guy used the Flying Thunder God technique to transfer my C3 to the sea? How is this possible? At the same time, standing on the roof of the ninja hidden village, a commotion also began to appear. What exactly is the situation? Where is that giant grenade just now? How come it suddenly disappeared? I don't know either. Why on the other side of the sea suddenly appeared such a huge explosive impact wave? The ninja group discussed with confused expressions, unable to clarify the situation. But in this crowd there are still smart guys. Inside, a blue-haired ninja with an excited expression raised his hand and pointed at the large yard, looking at Naruto's back and shouted, "Look quickly! It's Lord Naruto! Lord Naruto is back! He must have used the Flying Thunder God technique to move that bomb away. Lord Naruto? It really is him, only with that kind of powerful strength. Is he able to do such an impossible thing? Lord Naruto, it's really too beautiful. I must give birth to a monkey son for you." Zabuza grouped 4 people on this side of the battlefield. Haydn was still emitting a perverted laugh, the black iron rod in his hand, stabbing himself bit by bit. Each one was splattered with blood. Each one also landed on Zabuza's body, leaving a fresh bloody hole in Kurenai. Retired. A squad of 10 people in blue ninja uniforms kept jumping on the rooftops, stopping a few dozen meters away from the main battlefield on a rooftop. This squad was just on patrol, saw the commotion over here, and ran over. That is Mr. Zabuza and the others. Disgusting. Mr. Zabuza was defeated? How could this be? Hey, look closely. It's not just Mr. Zabuza, but also Miss Gurin and Mr. Sujetsu. They're all over there. The ninja group clearly saw the situation on the battlefield, and all of them frowned. After living together for several years, everyone's relationship was very good, especially Zabuza and Sujetsu. Tintin almost trained together with these foreign recruited ninjas. Mr. Zabuza and the others are seriously injured. Quickly go and help them. A young ninja took a step and wanted to jump down from the roof. Wait a minute. The bald ninja raised his hand to stop the young ninja, saying, "Without my orders, you are not allowed to act on your own." "But, Captain, if we don't help Mr. Zabuza and the others, they will all die." The young ninja roared angrily. The bald ninja turned his head and glared at him, saying in a low voice, "Calm down. Be careful. I am just as anxious as you are. But for us people, what happened is nothing. Take a closer look at the enemy's uniforms. They are all Akatsuki. Do you think we could be a match for them?" The young ninja knew the captain was right. This squad of 10 people all have the same strength as Xiaoren. Even the team leader is just a chunin. Before, when Girin was lecturing them to supplement their knowledge, he did mention that the people inside the Akatsuki organization were all Kage level. If you come across such a person, it's best not to casually fight with them. Just thinking about Zabuza and Girin and the others also having to die under the hands of that Akatsuki organization member, the young ninja still felt unwilling. "But, Captain, can we just let Mr. Zabuza and the others do whatever they want and get killed by the enemy right before our eyes?" A ninja from the Nyin dynasty patted his shoulder and said, "Calm down. Same salary. The captain is right. It won't change anything if we go. It's better to wait for the right time and see if there's anything we can do." Below, lying in a pool of blood, was Zabuza, his whole body covered in blood holes. On the hands, legs, abdomen, shoulders, and other places, blood was gushing out from the wounds and continuously flowing. Zabuza's body stopped shaking. He felt his body temperature rapidly dropping. His life was quickly passing away. "You, this bastard." Zabuza raised his head and glared at Haydn with bloodshot eyes. What a terrifying gaze. "You're already dead and still dare to show me this kind of threatening gaze?" Haydn saw Zabuza being tortured by him until he was no longer human. His heart filled with endless pleasure and excitement. This damn guy just made him suffer like this. Letting him die so easily is really too good for him. Calculating, "It's almost time to get bored of playing, so I'll send you on your way. Playing for too long makes Lord Evil God really unhappy." Haydn said hoot. Yeti. His two hands tightly gripped the black iron rod, forcefully stabbing it towards his heart. Puffy. The iron rod was deeply stabbed into the body. A crimson liquid flowed out. Zabuza's chest suddenly had a hole. He was in so much pain that his entire face contorted. A mouthful of fresh blood spurted out from his mouth. "Mr. Zabuza?" Haku lay on the ground, watching Haydn torture Zabuza the entire time. At this time, Haku's face was already covered with tears. His body was sobbing until he was about to lose all his strength. He could only watch helplessly as Zabuza was dealt a fatal blow by Haydn's strange method. Haku's heart was about to burst. He really had no way, no ability to save his most respected and beloved Mr. Zabuza. "Senor Zabuza. You." Sujitsu also felt a chill in his heart. He really wanted to say, "Senior Zabuza, you won't be defeated so easily, right?" Perhaps he also knows, if the heart is hit by that kind of fatal injury, I'm afraid no one can survive. The voice was choked for a while. The next half of the sentence could not be said. "Disgusting, Mr. Zabuza." The roof, with bloodshot eyes, almost wanted to spit fire. The remaining teammates also looked extremely wronged and uncomfortable, but they still chose to keep their sanity. Pressing down on Luong's shoulders, not letting him rush down to his death. "Haku, I. Zabuza lay flat on the ground, his lips slightly open and closed. But he found that he could only barely let out weak gasps, and even when he turned his neck and glanced back, he didn't have the strength. Am I really going to die? I still want to talk to Haku again, and I still want to take a closer look at him. And Nami, she is pregnant with my child, and told me to give the child a name, but I still haven't done it yet. Can you blame me? I really want to see Nami again. I want to see her give birth to the child, see the child grow up safely." Disgusting. Consciousness is getting more and more hazy. I have done many wrong things in my life, and to die in such a way, is this also my retribution? His eyes grew heavier and heavier, and Zabuza was unable to stay awake, completely closing his eyes and falling into a deep sleep. It's just that this sleeping time is a bit special. It can never be awakened again. Finally dead. This bastard really made me suffer a lot. Finally received the punishment he deserved. Haydn walked out of the cursed circle. seemingly dissatisfied with Zabuz's easy death. He carried the sickle and quickly walked forward, kicking Zabuz's body one after another, as if he felt that this could relieve the anger in his heart. "You bastard! What the hell did you do to Mr. Zabuza?" Haku let out a furious hiss. Seeing Zabuza fall this minute, Haku knew he was dead. Maybe Haiden was not willing to let go of Zabuz's body, wanting to fight and humiliate him like this. Haku could not help but explode. Also don't know that the copy is full of injuries, according to where the strength comes from. He suddenly jumped from the ground and flew straight towards Zabuza. Hey, Kakuzu, what the hell? You're still not dead after dealing with those two guys? Do you still want me to help you deal with them? Looking at the limping Haku, Haiden frowned, somewhat annoyed. Kakuzu said with a face that showed no problem. I originally thought that those two had no strength. Since he can still talk, then you can conveniently deal with him. Naruto, if you don't come back, we're really going to die. Sujetsu watched helplessly as Haku rushed out, unable to do anything to help. Just now his chakra had been used up quite a bit. Being hit by the lightning release, half of his body had turned into water. Occasionally, electric currents would appear on his body, making him unable to muster any strength at all. Even Zabuza was not that pervert's top opponent. How could Haku possibly defeat someone like that? Collect. While Kakuzu and Haiden were talking, Haku was so angry he couldn't swallow it. Several silver Simbon needles slid down from his sleeve, clamped in the gap in the middle. Towards Haiden on the other side swung his arm, and threw it strongly past. Zing zing zang zang. The sound of collision continued. Haiden held a large sickle in his hand, waving it in front of him for a while, knocking the flying silver needles to the ground one by one. Thinking like that, you want to take this guy back? Give it back to you. Immediately, Haiden raised his foot and kicked Zabuza hard, sending Zabuza flying and straight into Haku's body. Haku was already weak from his injuries, so naturally he couldn't easily dodge. Again, this was Zabuza's corpse. Even if he could dodge, Haku wouldn't be willing to dodge. Bang! The two bodies collided. Haku was knocked to the ground by Zabuza's body. Zabuza's body was placed on top of the white body. Mr. Zabuza! Haku grabbed Zabuza's hand. Looking at that peaceful face, the tears that had just stopped once again rushed down from the eye sockets. Ah, is this a show of deep affection? If so, then I will take you downstairs to meet him. Haiden held the large sickle in his hand, quickly ran forward, held the hilt of the sword, and strongly swung it down towards Haku's head. Looking at the scythe and his pupils continuously magnifying, Haku gently closed his eyes. Just now, the body's potential that had just been stimulated had completely dissipated. Moreover, Haku was also really tired and didn't want to have any more resistance. Being able to die together with Zabuza was probably also a good choice. A moment later, Haku did not feel any pain, and his body's consciousness was still there. He was a little confused and slowly opened his eyes. The tip of the big sickle had already reached less than 10 centimeters from his face, yet it stopped just like that. At the top of the sickle, it was firmly caught by a skeleton hand covered in green. Haiden gritted his teeth and used all his strength to suckle, forcefully lowering himself down to take it. That sickle was just trembling vaguely, unable to continue moving any further. Saved? Haku's eyes followed the skeleton's hand slowly moving, and finally saw a figure wearing an orange sportswear. Who else could it be but Naruto to save him? Naruto-kun. Mr. Zabuza. Seeing Naruto appear at this moment, Haku also did not know why. The feeling in his heart just like that was put down. Even though these perverts in front of him were still there, Haku knew that Naruto could solve the problem at hand. Zabuza is dead, right? I feel. Naruto gritted his teeth and glared at Haiden. Even though it was the first time they met, Naruto actually recognized this guy, knew he was a murderous pervert. Looking at Zabuza's body full of wounds, he was afraid that he might not be able to escape being related to Haiden. Baka, Zabuza is the one who killed this person before my eyes, right? Not waiting for Haku to reply, Haiden glared at Naruto, his face arrogant as he shouted. That's right. I killed him. You bastard. You must be the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. I really recognize you. Break! Haiden had not finished speaking when he grabbed the large scythe in his hand, but was grabbed by the arm of the skeleton Susanoo and thrown away. Naruto suddenly appeared in front of him, his hand clenched into a fist. Chakra hit him. Converging on his fist, a powerful punch hit his chest. Haiden screamed miserably. His muscles and bones broke apart. His entire chest was missing a large chunk. Immediately, his body flew out like a kite with a broken string, breaking through 5 or 6 thick walls, collapsing under the bricks and burying him inside, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Naruto, but in his heart very clearly, Haiden is immortal. Wanting to kill him is afraid to waste some effort. Not far away on the rooftop, those 10 hidden ninja originally saw Haku about to be looked at by Haiden. Their hearts already jumped to their throats. It was not until Naruto appeared and gave up the lifesaver that they could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Too good. It's Lord Naruto who's back. This time, our hidden village is finally saved. With tears and snot flowing down his face, he said, "So what? Lord Naruto is really amazing. Even if he could kill all those Akatsuki guys, Mr. Zabuza wouldn't be alive. Same salary. How can you say that this is not Naruto's fault? He also did not think that such a thing would happen." Liang wiped his nose. "I know. Maybe I still feel unwilling towards Mr. Zabuza. He was such an outstanding and strict senior, yet he just died like that." Whoa, 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 whoa. Naruto turned his head to look around, scanning the general situation. Giran fell to the ground without any movement, not knowing whether he was dead or alive. Sujetsu turned into a puddle of stagnant water, with only his head exposed, in an extremely miserable state. Sure enough, this guy is the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. For eyes met, Kakuzu saw Naruto's face and recognized Naruto's identity. Not stood behind Sasori, originally leisurely leaning against the wall. When he saw Naruto's back, he recognized Naruto's identity. Uzumaki Naruto. This time I will definitely make you pay the price. To get revenge for the humiliation you caused me last time. Sasori repaired the third Kazekage's puppet, and also repaired the hidden weapon expansion mechanism on his body, fully preparing for the next battle. Wood release wood clone technique. Naruto formed the wood release clone hand seal. The orange sportswear's back was attached high up, and the 4 wooden stakes split out, transforming into 4 identical Narutos. "Let's go!" Naruto waved his hand. The 2 wood release clones did not say a word and ran straight towards Haiden and Sasori. "You're here? Are you planning to use wood release clone to separate us and fight?" Kakuzu swallowed a mouthful of saliva, guessing Naruto's intentions. Seeing the wood release clone at this moment, Kakuzu was extremely startled in his heart. He might not have thought that Naruto would even use wood release ninjutsu. Remembering that day when he fought with the first Hokage, he was lucky to have experienced the power of wood release ninjutsu. This type of wood release clone strength is no different from the main body. It can use all of the main body's ninjutsu. Looks like even if it's a clone, it should be a battlefield ready to welcome the enemy. Kakuzu secretly made up his mind, waiting for the wood release clone to arrive, to decide the winner or loser with him. "Come, even if it's a clone, I will use all my strength to deal with it." Receiving Kakuzu's infection, Sasori was also filled with solemnity in his heart. He stared at the wood release clone that was running towards him, slightly stretching out his pair of puppet hands fingers, preparing for the next battle. Itachi said early on, "The nine-tailed Jinchuriki has no weaknesses, so one must be careful in dealing with it." In addition, the last time Sasori was beaten so viciously by Naruto, it left a bit of a psychological shadow. Even if it was just a clone that came up, he still wouldn't have any disdain. "Go! Uzumaki Naruto!" Knock, knock, knock. Footsteps continuously echoed. But the 2 would release clones completely ignored Kakuzu and Sasori. Just as Suigetsu and Giran stopped, squatted down to confirm their injuries, then picked them up. Immediately, Kakuzu and Sasori only felt a flash of embarrassment in their minds and pedaled their horses. It turned out that the other party had no intention of using a clone to fight. "So you ran here just to rescue your teammates? Worked for half a day. Turns out it's my nerves that are too sensitive." That horse rider himself still threatened to clone. "This is a bit too embarrassing. What are you guys talking about? Don't worry. I will immediately make you die an unsightly death. Today. Whoever dares to come to my wave country to harass and kill people, don't even think about leaving this place alive." The clone turned its head to glare at Kakuzu and Sasori, then immediately hugged its teammates and disappeared from sight. This is the wood release clone that activated the Flying Thunder God technique, bringing Sujetsu and Giran back to the hidden village. Now both of them are seriously injured. They must quickly seek medical treatment. "Huckle, you go ahead and rest well and heal your wounds. Leave this side to me first." Naruto shouted to Haku. "Be careful. We must make these scum die an unsightly death." Haku nodded, turned his head to glance at Sasori and Kaku. His eyes filled with hatred as he spoke. Two would release clones stepped forward, one hugging Zabuza, one hugging Haku. Wow! The clone took two people with him, activated the Flying Thunder God technique, and disappeared from the original spot. At this moment, a series of footsteps rang out from within the ruins. Haiden was beaten until his chest was missing a block, but he crawled out from under the bricks, his face angry as he glared at Naruto and roared. Hey, you bastard! You really hit me hard. Don't you know I'll be in a lot of pain like this? As he spoke, Haiden's chest was missing a large piece of flesh and blood, and at a speed visible to the naked eye, it slowly closed itself. The wound on his side that was just slashed by Zabuza unexpectedly automatically healed. Kakuzu, what are you two doing standing there? Why did the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki appear? And you still have Fudo in your hands? Haiden kept complaining and looking at his two teammates and roaringly asked. Kakuzu's face turned red, thinking to himself, I just pedaled my horse and wanted to attack. Who would have thought that the other party would use a clone to play with me? Fortunately, Kakuzu's face was covered with a black veil, so his nervousness did not show. Cough cough, what is that? Haiden, don't talk nonsense. Everyone quickly go forward and capture the nine-tailed Jinchuriki. As Kakuzu spoke, he manipulated the 5 Earth Grudge monkeys and quickly ran towards Naruto. Sasori was also unwilling to fall behind, controlling the 3rd Kazekage puppet, quickly rushing towards Naruto's side. Retired, but he did not wait for them to come closer. A meter-long white clay giant bird appeared in the sky, one head swooping down towards Naruto. A loud bang. The giant clay bird behind Naruto broke open, sending up a streak of fire. The explosive air waves swept in all directions, and a large hole was dug into the ground. Hey, Deidara, you bastard! Didn't you say the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki wanted to capture him alive? Does that guy want to blow him up to death? Haiden glanced and saw Deidara in the sky, pointing at him and roaring loudly. Deidara snorted softly and said angrily, I can't care about that much. Who told that guy just now to dare to tease me? Just now at Minin Village on the other side. Naruto moved the C3 grenade to the sea surface, then returned to the village, intentionally used chakra to attach to his throat, and loudly called Deidara to surrender to the sky. Naruto intentionally left a wood-release clone in the village. At the same time, Deidara said that his own clone was enough to deal with him, Deidara. No matter how Deidara bombs the village, the clone has a way to deal with him. Furthermore, Naruto also deliberately told Deidara that his main body wanted to chase towards the other side of the village gate, to fight with several other Akatsuki people. These words made Deidara very angry. Who is this looking down on? I am a dignified artist, and I am left here to play with you, a clone? So I, the artist, am not very self-centered? Very loose-face? So, after Naruto activated the Flying Thunder God technique, he rushed to the city gate on this side of the battlefield. Deidara had no choice but to give up on his attack on Minin Village and control the owl to return to its original form, flying towards the city gate. On the contrary, his purpose is also to capture the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki. Since the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki were all gone, there was no point in continuing to attack that village. Maybe Deidara was very angry. Naruto's vitality did not consider him a problem. This just came up just now. He immediately gave Naruto a big grenade thing like that. But the grenade billowed black smoke and dispersed. The crater that was blown up was empty. There was only a specially made Hiraition kunai, tilted and stuck at the edge of a hole not far away on the ground. Wow! Flying Thunder God technique activated. Just took advantage of Hiraition to escape Naruto. Once again, activated Hiraition to return to his gear, standing at Kunai's side. That Deidara guy is also here to be attracted? That's good. We can take care of all 4 of you together. Naruto glanced around to get a general idea of the situation, then immediately made a battle judgment. The foot suddenly stepped on the ground, made a whoosh sound, and charged straight towards Haiden. Haiden is the weakest one among them. At the same time, Haiden was also the most hateful one. He killed Zabuza. Today, Haiden must die first. Hey, this speed is really quite fast. Haiden's face was filled with fear. He quickly stepped on the wall behind the tall building and jumped up. Even though Naruto didn't activate the 8 gates release, his speed still didn't reach the speed of Zabuza opening the 5 gates just now. But Naruto has been cultivating in physical technique for a long time. This speed has quickly reached the level of afterimage. In Haiden's eyes, without a scythe as a weapon, he was temporarily no match for Naruto. Still waiting for Kakuzu and Sasori to come to the rescue. Then I will find a good opportunity to counterattack. Heiden's battle circuit thinking is absolutely correct. But he overestimated his escape speed. Just stepped on the wall, went up and jumped less than 5 meters, glanced back. Naruto hissed and turned into an afterimage that had arrived behind him. Oh no! Heiden's face was filled with fear. This Nine-Tails Jinchuriki was too perverted. How could it be so fast that it was out of the ordinary? Moreover, at this moment, Naruto stepped on the wall to borrow strength. His body was in a state of flying behind Heiden. Heiden only saw Naruto gritting his teeth and punching him in the back. Crackle. Ah! Heiden screamed miserably, clearly feeling the sound of his spine breaking behind him. After spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood, his body slammed like crazy against the wall in front of him. The wall was instantly blasted open into a large hole, and Heiden's body flew into the 3rd floor, hitting a large Tekai machine, emitting a loud clanging sound. Bastard! Heiden's body lost weight and fell to the ground, feeling pain coming from his entire body breaking into pieces. This time his spine was broken, causing him to temporarily lose his ability to move. Perhaps in the next blink of an eye, when he turned his head to look towards the other side of the wall breaking the cave entrance, Zhongnin's eyes could not help but reveal fear and apprehension. Naruto punched him back. Unexpectedly, both hands tightly held the edge of the hole in the wall, stepped into the 3rd floor, turned into an afterimage, and quickly rushed towards him. Get out! Don't come here! Heiden screamed in fear. This time he was really scared. His own immortal body in front of the Nine-Tailed Jinchuriki really didn't have any great advantage. Looking at Naruto's angry face, I'm afraid he wants to skin him and flay his bones. It is not wrong to possess an immortal body, but in a situation where he has absolutely no power to resist. He is beaten. Moreover, the immortal body is not without weaknesses. In the situation where the body is severed and separated, he has no way to recover on his own. Heiden, you will surely die today. Even Jesus cannot save you. I say. At the moment Heiden shouted, Naruto transformed into an afterimage and appeared in front of him. Break! Chakra hit it a bit, clinging to the fist on the face. Naruto swung his fist strongly, hitting Heiden in the lower abdomen. Boom boom. According to Heiden's miserable scream, a mouthful of fresh blood spurted out of his mouth. Under his body, the concrete ground also appeared a big hole. Along the ground around appeared spider web-like cracks. The entire ground was completely broken out. Rumble rumble, the 2nd floor collapsed down. Immediately after that, Heiden and Naruto also followed those ruins and fell down together, falling onto the 2nd floor of the ground. The rubble and scum covered the two people's bodies. The air was filled with pungent dust. Naruto but still refused to let Heiden go like that. Just thinking about the deaths of those ninja in Minen village, and thinking about Zabuza's death, Naruto's heart was filled with anger. And this anger now needs Heiden to bear. Get out! I won't let you die so easily. Naruto grabbed Heiden's collar in one shot and lifted him up from the ruins. The tile was lifted up and slid down the surrounding area. Naruto grabbed Heiden and lifted him up, pressing him against the big machine behind him, his face angry as he stared at him. Humpha ha 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 ha, you idiot! I will never die. No matter how you hit me, it's no use. I'm really... Break! Heiden was completely indifferent to Naruto's threats, and even let out a strange, contemptuous laugh. But before he could finish his words, Naruto suddenly raised his fist and forcefully hit him on the bone of his nose. Immediately, Heiden's nasal bone broke, his nose bent and deformed, blood gushing out of his nose. Break, break, break. Naruto punched Heiden in the face again and again. In less than a moment, Heiden's face was swollen like a pig's head, completely unrecognizable from his original human appearance. Immortal body, right? Then I will tear you to pieces by 5 horses, then throw you into the fire and burn you. Let me see if you can die or not. Eh? Naruto roared angrily, once again condensing chakra on his fist. A powerful punch slammed into Heiden's face on the door. Jingle! Heiden's head hit the metal back of the machine, making a loud noise. Immediately, his head exploded like a watermelon, blood splattered everywhere. Now the face is distorted, even a little sunken. The appearance looks strangely terrifying, if it weren't for the fact that the human head is an extremely hard part. Naruto's punch was probably going to beat Heiden's head into a pulp. Immortal body? Is it that powerful? Naruto glared at Haiden for a while and roared, raising his fist, ready to give him a second punch. Boom, boom, tilde, tilde, tilde. But Naruto's fist had just been raised when the second-floor window suddenly emitted a shattering sound. Broken glass fragments scattered all over the ground. Naruto quickly turned his head to look back. A giant clay bird broke through the window, spread its wings, and with a whoosh, charged towards Naruto's side. That Deidara wants to explode with Haiden? Naruto's face was slightly frightened. Although this second-floor space is very spacious, it still cannot withstand the impact of a bird flying explosively. If the bird were to explode, the entire building's heavy pillars would be damaged and would probably collapse completely. Thoughts were racing, looking at that bird flying and the pupil continuously expanding. Naruto said nothing and activated the Flying Thunder God technique. Wow! Naruto carried Haiden and disappeared to the second floor. A loud bang. A wave of flame swept out from the second-floor windows. The glass instantly exploded, and waves of fire rushed straight to the horizon. As Naruto expected, the second floor's gravity pillar was not damaged by the explosion. It seems that when Tizana led the construction team, the project was not lazy and was completed very well. But Naruto carried Haiden, who had just fallen to the ground in a flash. It was also on the side of the large ditch left on the street, where the handle of this kunai was located. Above his head, there was already a large patch of black sand iron bullets, waiting for Naruto to appear. Satai Taivu! Sasori's 10 fingers linked together, manipulating the third Kazekage's puppet, launching an attack. After the last time he fought with Naruto, Sasori had already studied Naruto's fighting techniques. Used the Flying Thunder God technique to change position and escape, avoiding the enemy's deadly harm. But just now Naruto left the Hiratian specially made kunai on the ground. Sasori also discovered it and had already set up an ambush here. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Tiny drops of sand rain fell straight down from above Naruto's head. Logically speaking, this move was a surprise attack, so Naruto would definitely get hit. But Sasori underestimated Naruto's reaction speed, and also underestimated Naruto's defensive ability. Naruto could completely instantly carry Haiden again, activate Flying Thunder God technique, and run away. But Naruto did not do so. Just stood there motionless, looking at Sasori with disdain, the corner of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Susanoo-kan? Naruto's eyes condensed, his blue pupils turned blood red. As the 3 pearls in the pupil moved, they transformed into 4-cornered pearl shuriken. Green energy enveloped its entire body, and Susanoo's second form could be activated. 5 to 6 meter tall skeleton body completely covered Naruto inside. Those sand irons were like bullets, pounding down like crazy, leaving huge holes on the ground, stirring up large patches of dust. But there was no way to break through that skeleton's defense. It still stood firmly in the same place. It was just a slight bone crack, but with Naruto's chakra increasing and releasing, it quickly completed healing. Appear! Is that what Naruto-sama Susanoo can do? At the top of the building, the bald leader exclaimed with excitement. The remaining 9 people in the squad looked dazed, looking at the leader's bare head and asking, Captain, what else could Susanoo be? Is it that giant skeleton just now? Leon couldn't help but ask. The bald leader turned his head and saw everyone looking at him curiously. Immediately, a sense of pride appeared in his heart. You are all newcomers to the Hidden Village these 2 years. This must be your first time seeing Lord Naruto's Susanoo, right? Previously, Konoha sent out several thousand elite Umbu soldiers to come to our hidden village to cause trouble. Lord Naruto, with just 1 person's strength, can split into 4 wood-release clones, and summon all of them with that Susanoo, and kill the enemy until he pees his pants. Hearing the bald team leader's words, the remaining 9 team members couldn't help but swallow their saliva. 1 person fights thousands of people, killing the enemy until they pee their pants? Although I have heard this kind of rumor before in the village. But everyone just considered him a few Naruto-worshipping guys spreading rumors in the village, laughing and making a topic after meals, listening to a bit and then passing by. Now, when they saw with their own eyes Naruto summon that kind of hell-like skeleton, they immediately understood that those rumors were all true. Lord Naruto really has this kind of terrifying strength. On the other side, Sasori and Kakazu stood side by side, their faces also covered in surprise. Sasori's lips curled slightly, muttering to himself. Uzumaki Naruto, compared to last time, Has his strength increased so much? What the hell is this skeleton? Such an amazing defensive ability. Kakuzu could hardly believe his eyes. Although he did not personally experience Sasori's Satoru-shin attack, but just by the ground above being hit by the sand iron bullet, creating such a deep crater, Kakuzu could already imagine how powerful the attack was. Yet that skeleton was able to withstand all the sand iron bullets and still stand tall without falling. This defense could only be described as perverted. Disgusting Nine-Tails Jinchuriki's heart seems unobtainable. Kakuzu muttered to himself, not that he was afraid, thinking that the four of them had failed. But the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki must be captured alive. It is possible that after the sealing is completed, the Jinchuriki is already dead. It seems that the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki that lures people's hearts, he has no way to get his hands on it. Sasori, you still haven't improved at all? You can only use these old-fashioned T attacks to play around. Naruto looked at Sasori and said mockingly. That contemptuous gaze seemed to say again, even if you were saved by the Sand Village people, you're still a useless piece of trash. Bastard, I will definitely kill you. Sasori was completely enraged. Not only did he look down on him, but he also looked down on his art. His body was trembling, already approaching the edge of an explosion. At the same time, Sasori's 10 fingers moved together, controlling the third Kazekage's puppet to fly in the air. Quietly brought the sand iron, condensed into a huge spike, standing tall above the skull's head. He wanted to use this method to increase the density and weight of sand iron to break Susanu's defense. Hey, Kakuzu, what are you all doing in a daze? Hurry up and attack. Come save me. Being lifted in Naruto's hand, unable to resist and move, Haiden, using that long, humanoid pig head face, glared at Kakuzu with a vague, unclear expression and roared loudly. Huh? Kakuzu's eyes glanced at Naruto beside him, and when he saw Haiden's face that was neither human nor demon, he was immediately startled. Fuck, what kind of monster is this? Towards the top of his head was a sharp iron tip. Such a large object appeared, blocking his temple. Naruto naturally couldn't be so stupid that he couldn't even see this. But Naruto completely ignored it. His right hand made a void move. A kunai appeared in his hand. As Naruto used wind release attribute chakra, it absorbed into the kunai, and immediately the kunai was surrounded by a very thin layer of chakra, looking extremely sharp. You like shouting, right? Then I will chop off your head and let you shout enough, Naruto said, holding a kunai in his hand and strongly slashed towards Haiden's neck. Go die. Almost as soon as Naruto raised his hand, Sasori's fingers also moved. On top of its head, a huge sand iron spike condensed, and it rumbled as it smashed straight down towards Susanoo. Puffy, but Naruto and Haiden were too close. So he still took a step forward and chopped off his head from his neck. At the distance where the tip of the sand iron Susanoo could reach above his head, less than half a meter, Naruto activated the Flying Thunder God technique. Wow! Naruto lifted Haiden's body with one hand, and Haiden's skull with the other, disappearing from sight. And Susanoo's skeleton also disappeared. That huge iron spike deeply pierced into the ground. The earth shook violently, as if a small earthquake had occurred. On both sides of the street, 2 buildings were hit and swayed slightly, collapsing with a swishing sound. Run away? Sasori muttered to himself. Just now, the scene where Naruto ran away with Haiden was seen by everyone here. Kakuzu said in a low voice, Wait and see, that guy will come back. According to Naruto's angry gaze, just now, Kakuzu could guess that Naruto would definitely return again. In the air, Deidara stood on the owl's back, staring intently at the battle below, but from beginning to end did not launch an attack. It's not that he doesn't want to, but he's trying to control himself. His explosive attacks mostly involved large-scale damage. If he really threw down a few big moves, I'm afraid even Sasori and Kakuzu would be caught up in the attack range. Really? Can cooperating with that group of people really be considered a trustworthy choice? The leader's arrangement is very problematic. Huh? Deidara's mouth was mumbling. Both hands pulled out the clay ninja tool in the bag at his waist. 2 hands clasped together. A pile of round clay balls appeared in the palm. These balls have noses and eyes, like some kind of insect. As Deidara threw his hands downward, the insects also exploded into small white mists, growing powerful hind legs. They fell to the top of the building below, then bounced up and scattered, disappearing into the hidden corner. There is no other way. We can only cooperate with Sasori-sama and Kakazu to fight a diversionary battle and see. My art is really not suitable for cooperating with people, huh? Wow! An orange figure appeared and landed beside a specially made Hirashin kunai. Just as Kakazu thought, Naruto sent Haiden back and handed him over to Hinata to deal with. Then he turned around again. Good! You three scum! Today is the time to settle the total debt with you. Naruto's eyes filled with anger. He glanced at the three Akatsuki organization members. Immediately, Naruto slightly raised both hands, and a large handful of specially made Hirashin kunai appeared in his empty palms. This is stored in the kunai space system, well preserved. Naruto's mind was activated, and he could take it out at any time. Collect, collect, collect. Following Naruto's 360-degree turn, the dozens of kunai in his hand also flew out. Point the positions, hit around the building wall, or on the ground. There was also a Hirashin kunai part, which was flying towards Sasori and Kakazu, but the two of them just dodged between them, casually avoiding the past. Be careful. That guy can use those kunai to instantly complete the transfer. Sasori reminded Kakazu in a low voice. I know. I don't need you to remind me. Kakazu was a little annoyed. You think I'm a newbie? I am much older than you, but my combat experience is also richer than yours. Although he felt uncomfortable inside, Kakazu's hand movements did not stop, making those Hirashin specially made kunai, stabbed the two of them several meters behind and onto the ground. Kakazu also instantly manipulated the wind release attribute Earth Grudge attack, launching a Namikaze release attack from behind. Wind-style gap explosion. Kakazu clasped his hands in salute, completing the hand seal. Wind attribute Earth Grudge mask's mouth opened wide. A storm spewed out from its mouth. Boom boom. Immediately, the street was howling with a gale, apart from the dust flying on the ground outside. The small stalls on both sides of the street that were beaten to a crisp also rolled away towards a more remote location. At the same time, the ground was immediately lifted up a layer of ground, and those Hirashin specially made kunai were immediately blown away. He did so just to prevent Naruto from suddenly activating Hirashin and sneak attacking them from behind. That kind of supernatural means still makes people feel timid. Fire release is a pain in the asceticism. At the same time, the wind attribute Earth Resentment Ngu releases his ninjutsu towards the back. Fire attribute Earth Grudge, almost in less than 3 seconds, had already activated fire release ninjutsu to attack. Boom boom tilde tilde tilde. The rolling sea of fire covered the entire path, sweeping straight towards Naruto. Naruto felt a heat wave, one towards his face. Wow! Without any hesitation, he activated the Flying Thunder God technique. Naruto disappeared from the spot. Then in the blink of an eye, an orange figure appeared on the wall on the right side of the building. He used the soles of his feet to cling to the chakra, clinging to the wall above, and his hands forming hand seals. Keton. Housenka no Jutsu. Fire release. Phoenix fire technique. Naruto's jaw was high, and fireballs like phoenix flowers were sprayed out from his mouth. Showing different angles, Sasori and Kakazu flew straight past. Kakazu brought 5 Earth Grudge Fools and continuously dodged back. Each fireball hit his feet, but none hit. Sasori was simply brutal, making a layer of sand iron in front of him, forming a very thin layer of sand iron wall. The fireball hit the sand iron above, creating a few fire waves, but it did not break through the sand iron's defense. If you say so, then first come up with a Rasen Shuriken. Let you guys have a taste. Naruto muttered a sentence, his hands slightly raised, chakra airflow already circled around his palm. Before that, Guren and Zabuza and the others fought with Akatsuki. This piece of square villagers, all were run to this place by ninja, led to quietly escape through the back door. So, no matter how fiercely this side hits, it will not hurt any innocent people. But when Naruto's palm chakra vortex just condensed a Rasengan moment, on the roof of the suburban house, suddenly appeared more than 10 white clay fleas. Those long and powerful hind legs were slightly curved, and with a whoosh, they jumped down onto Naruto's back. Data that guy? Naruto now really has open Mangekyo Sharingan. In addition, having long-term cultivation in physical arts, he is extremely sensitive to the wind and grass around him. Those flea sounds, although not loud, still could not escape Naruto's ears. Wow! Flying Thunder God technique activated. Naruto gave up on releasing the wind release Rasen Shuriken. then in the blink of an eye jumped to the opposite wall of the tall building. Boom, boom, tilde, tilde, boom, boom, tilde, tilde, tilde. Explosions rang out one after another, and the fleas lost their target, but were still detonated, sending up clusters of flames in the air. At this time, the sea of fire on the street had not yet subsided. Taking advantage of Hiration's escape to the opposite side was the most suitable choice. But Naruto's two legs just stuck to the wall. Beside the window on the mouth, there were already dozens of clay fleas, as if waiting for Naruto to come. Collect, collect, collect. They fell down one by one, then jumped forward towards Naruto. Before they were even a meter away from Naruto, the round insect's stomach had already begun to expand in the air. These guys, Naruto was slightly shocked in his heart. These guys really would coordinate their attacks, with almost no prelude, making Naruto gasp for breath. The attack came wave after wave. This time, Naruto definitely did not activate Hiration to dodge. Continue to hide at the next Hiration's specially made kunai location. Deidara, that guy, probably also arranged a flea grenade ambush. Susanoo-kan? Naruto's eyes narrowed. Green energy poured out from his body, forming a small skeleton body, wrapping Naruto inside. This is Susanoo's first form, dealing with these flea grenades. This form is completely enough. Boom, boom, tilde, 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 boom, boom, tilde, tilde, tilde. Explosions rang out one after another, and clusters of flames exploded around Naruto's body, forming a black smoke that covered the visible area around Naruto. How is it the nine-tailed Jinchuriki was hit so easily? In the air, Deidara's mouth corners curved into a smile. He had just been staring intently at the places below and had not discovered Naruto using the Flying Thunder God technique to escape. Sasori and Kakazu also temporarily stopped attacking, wanting to see if Deidara's sneak attack would be effective. Multiple shadow clone technique. The black smoke had not yet dispersed when in response to them, the sound of Naruto releasing a ninjutsu rang out. A group of shadow clones continuously appeared and floated up. In less than a moment, 2,000 shadow clones had already occupied the entire wall of that large building. There are so many of them, it makes your scalp numb. A few dozen meters away, a 4- or 5-story high-rise building stood at the top. The bald squad of 10 ninjas, all squatted with their bodies on cat waists, only revealing their heads, quietly watching the battle below. As expected of Lord Naruto, this shadow clone's number is truly astonishing. That's right, I have never seen this kind of battle before. I can't even see it with my clear eyes. Again, the strength of those Akatsuki people is truly abnormal. Lord Naruto, being able to deal with them all at the same time, is truly extraordinary. Bald head face showed a look of discomfort, raised his hand on the head of the same Luong, and knocked violently. Of course, Lord Naruto cannot be defeated by those Akatsuki guys. He is the spiritual pillar and belief of our hidden village. With a wronged expression, he touched the swelling on his head and said to himself, Captain is really, I know you are a loyal fan of Lord Naruto, but you said it, there is no need to bother me. Tucci, Naruto's real body waved his hand. All troops mobilize. Ah, no, that's wrong. All troops mobilize. Ah. The clones waved their hands and shouted loudly, their voices echoing through the heavens and earth. Ba ba ba. Immediately, 2,000 shadow clones group mobilized together. Having activated the Flying Thunder God technique, he arrived below on the street. Some of them just used their 2 legs to walk, exerting their maximum speed, jumping towards the walls on both sides of the building, completely dispersing. Boom boom tilde 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 boom boom tilde tilde tilde. Deidara arranged flea grenades, which exploded continuously from time to time. But the number of shadow clones is really too much. Quite a few grenade fleas had just jumped up when they were thrown away by the shadow clone. Kunai shot out, stuck on the wall. There were also a few flea grenades that successfully completed the sneak attack, bringing on Fan. The body exploded into white mist, dissipating instantly and disappearing from sight. But in short, Deidara had previously placed flea grenades on both sides of the main building, and experienced such a wave of shadow clones causing trouble below. Completely consumed. But Shadow Clone, because of the advantage in numbers, on the contrary, did not have much loss. For a moment, the entire road above, everywhere were orange figures flashing. Bright people were dizzy. Damn it, how can there be so many clones? Kakuzu's face was shocked. Like that in a split second, those shadow clones scattered to various places. Everywhere are Uzumaki Naruto's figures. On both sides of the Great Wall, the path in front, the path behind, all are densely packed with shadow clones. No, this tactic? Is it to surround us? Sasori realized something was wrong, turned his head and glanced around. Only then did he discover that Naruto's shadow clone group had already surrounded him and Kakuzu in the center. Ladies and gentlemen, now it's my turn to show off my skills. Naruto, time to show off my skills. Technical H. Next, come forward with a wave of Naruto's shuriken technique from all directions. Naruto's main body loudly shouted commands. I know it's a good idea. The Shadow Clones group shouted in agreement. Immediately, the Shadow Clones group reached behind their backs and took out shuriken and kunai from their bags. Both hands suddenly raised. Towards the central path, Sasori and Deidara threw hard past. Attack! Defeat them! Collect equals. The Shadow Clone group made a bunch of strange noises. Tiny shuriken and kunai, like raindrops, fell out of the sky, moving medium with air friction to make a loud sound. Disgusting. There are so many. Kazu cursed under his breath, momentarily feeling a little confused. Although this form of attack is not enough to be fatal, but the 5 Earth Grudge Fools, the defense might not be that strong either. There were quite a few kunai in the rain of shuriken, the ends of which were all tied with explosives. Kakuzu could see it all clearly. The explosive explosion still posed a great threat to the earthly resentment. Kakuzu! Nine Asori shouted loudly, his 2 hands and fingers continuously dancing in the middle. The third Kazekage puppet, in the mouth, began to spit out even more giant black sand iron than before. I know, Kakuzu agreed, knowing that Sasori wanted him to dodge. He had a way to defend against these attacks. Iron defense. Sure enough, Kakuzu brought 5 Earth Grudge monkeys with him and jumped towards Sasori. Edge of time. The third Kazekage released those black sand irons, which rapidly wriggled and danced, forming a thick circular sand iron fence in the center of the street. Bring Sasori and Kakuzu all inside to protect. Shuriken and kunai stabbed into the sand iron above, emitting loud, sizzling sounds. But unfortunately, no matter how strong Naruto is, with Shuriken's attack power, there is no way to break through sand iron's defense. The kunai at the end of the pillar exploded, continuously emitting clusters of fire, densely packed like firecrackers. Still cannot break that thick sand iron defensive cage. Just the iron exploded and scattered everywhere. This bastard! Even I was planning something inside? Deidara cursed softly, controlling the owl under his feet to sway left and right, dodging the kunai and shuriken thrown up from below. The explosive talisman continuously exploded beside him, but did not cause any damage to Deidara. What? But this also slightly disrupted Deidara's attack rhythm. He was just about to throw a few grenades down, just in time to blow up all the dense Naruto shadow clones. Finally, the kunai flying below stopped silently. Deidara didn't need to focus his attention again, dodging those shuriken and exploding. Attack spell. 2 hands probed into the clay ninja tool in the bag, starting the next wave of attacks ready. Below on the street, the first wave of shuriken attacks from all directions was ineffective. Naruto's main body began to command again, letting the Shadow Clone group launch another attack. Everyone! Next is Naruto's second joint attack. Everyone prepare yourselves. The more. Want to go up? The Shadow Clones group waved their hands and shouted loudly, shouting in agreement. Immediately, the Shadow Clones group started to form 2 by 2 groups. One of them slightly raised his right hand, condensing chakra energy in his palm and swirling. In less than a moment, more than 1,000 Rasengan had condensed in the hands of the clones. That, along with that shadow clone that seemed to be assisting, the Rasengan increased chakra absorption and control. The Rasengan's volume clearly increased, expanding to the size of a wash basin. Small face. Great Gem Rasengan. Great Gem Rasengan. Great Gem Rasengan. The 2 of them formed a shadow clones and simultaneously activated the Rasengan in their hands. A huge iron cage was launched towards the central path. On both sides of the street, on the walls of the high-rise buildings, standing there were those shadow clones. Also 2 in a group, jumping down, intending to destroy the sand iron cage from the top. In an instant, one after another great jade Rasengan hit the sand iron cage, exploding with clusters of dazzling light. Although that cage of sand iron has extremely good density and thickness. Following closely behind ran Naruto's shadow clone group, holding the great Jade Rasengan in hand, straight towards that sand iron cage inside. But at this moment, in the center of the cage, Sasori and Kakuzu were not too confused. At this time, Kakuzu's form had undergone a slight change. His shoulders on the left and right, and his body alone, had more than one mask. Just escaped from the Sophiac cage during this time. He has completed the Wind Attribute Earth Grudge and the Fire Attribute Earth Grudge fusion of his body. Naruto is too fast, and also possesses the Flying Thunder God technique. Changing to this state, for Kakuzu, is a safer and more stable choice. Fire release is a pain in the asceticism. Kakuzu clasped his hands in salute. The fire release seal was completely condensed. The left shoulder of the fire attribute mask suddenly opened its mouth wide. A dazzling ball of fire from the mask's mouth sprayed out. The fire wave headed straight towards the opposite side. Those Naruto shadow clones rolled past. The great Jade Rasengan was impossible to throw out of hand. Although the shadow clone group ran with all their might, none of the opponents had already completed their hand seals and released a fast-speed ninjutsu. The first shadow clone that rushed forward, just as it rushed into the sand iron cage, was immediately blown up by the hot fire waves, turning into white mist and dissipating. Behind the shadow clone, not only was it separated by the fire wave, but it was also blown backwards and was unable to complete its attack mission. Wind style is harmful. Seeing the path around, there was also a large array of Naruto shadow clones, excitedly wanting to rush forward to attack. Kakuzu resolutely formed a hand seal again, releasing a wind release ninjutsu. The mask's right shoulder opened wide. A large amount of liquid sprayed out from the mouth. The wind blew with a loud screech, carrying with it a line of visible wind blades, chasing the wave of fire ahead. Boom, boom, tilde, tilde, tilde. Immediately, the fire that was already about to be extinguished after being swept by this hurricane, once again began to burn fiercely. In a moment, the fire wave covered the entire southern side of the road. The flames shot straight up to the horizon, already higher than the surrounding 3- or 4-story tall buildings. This time, those Naruto shadow clones on the south side of the street had no way to dodge. After struggling in the sea of fire for a while, they were burned into white mist and dissipated into thin air. The other north side, making Naruto's shadow clone group join forces. Holding the great Jade Rasengan in hand, they broke the sand iron cage, not even having time to step inside. Sasori had already prepared his counterattack. Hand in hand, 2 pitch black round tubes extended out, emitting a mechanical expansion shaft-type rotating sound. Adjust to water form release state. As Sasori's flat and wide palms stretched out, 2 columns of water sprayed out from his round palms, shooting across the street. The 2 groups of water columns rushed out like sharp blades. Anything that touches the water column at any point will instantly be cut and exploded, turning into white mist and dissipating. Even the walls of the high-rise buildings on both sides of the street were cut by the water column and shattered into large cracks. As the bricks flew down in the middle, the wall also collapsed with a loud bang. Fortunately, when Tizana closed for a long time, Naruto gave enough money for the materials, without any traces of skimping on the materials. Even though the walls on both sides of the street were completely destroyed, the entire building did not collapse. Booz, booz, booz. But at this moment, Naruto's main body, along with another Naruto shadow clone not far away, each held a rapidly rotating Rasen Shuriken in their hands. The Rasen Shuriken rubbed against the air, creating an unpleasant noise that shook the eardrums. The only one here who was not affected by this noise was Sasori, because Sasori's body is a puppet although he has hearing. It is completely above that round heart tube. Wind style, universal speaker sword. Naruto let out a low shout, waved his hand, and threw the Rasen Shuriken that was raised high above his head, swinging it towards the center of the path below. Immediately after, another shadow clone also made the same move. In a flash, 2 Rasen Shuriken flew straight towards the sand iron cage, leaving holes in it. Oh no! Sasori cried out in alarm. He had experienced the power of this Rasen Shuriken before, so he naturally knew what terrifying energy this technique contained. Under his eyes, the sand iron cage that formed a defense was still being destroyed by the shadow clone. The third Kazekage puppet basically did not have time to manipulate sand iron, forming the next wave of sand iron walls to attack with Rasen Shuriken. What's more, there are 2 Rasen Shuriken. What can he use to block them? Collection. At the critical moment, 2 giant clay birds flew out from the sky. One of them stabbed towards the 2 spinning Rasen Shuriken in the air. The great bird and the Rasen Shuriken collided. Screech! According to Deidara, a loud shout. The giant bird expanded and burst open, raising a rolling wave of fire in the air. But the Rasen Shuriken hit the block, also could not reach the ideal attack position, and also broke apart in the air. Roaring! At that moment, a loud explosion rang out. 2 Rasen Shuriken exploded in the air, creating 2 groups of white light about 10 meters in size. Even during the day, that light was still extremely annoying. The surrounding walls of the tall building, wherever the light ball touched, instantly turned into powder, pouring down towards the ground. The walls on both sides of the great tower were swallowed by the white light of the Rasen Shuriken, creating an empty circle. This time the stairs could not be supported and collapsed with a loud bang towards the street above. Broken bricks and tiles covered and buried Kazu and Sasori in the center of the road. For a moment, no one knew if they were alive or dead. Deidara, you bastard! Naruto raised his head and glared at Deidara in the sky, extremely angry inside. Just then, in that attack, if it wasn't for Deidara's interference, Sasori and Kakuzu would have had no hope of surviving after being hit by 2 Rasen Shuriken. The Rasen Shuriken that had just been blocked exploded in midair, completely causing no fatal damage to the 2 people on the street. Although the 2 of them were buried under the ruins, Naruto was very clear in his heart. Those guys were all so strong and perverted, there was no way they could be beaten to death by 2 bricks. Deidara, you want to be the first one to die, right? Naruto raised his head and roared. Humph, I won't die. Right now I occupy the advantageous terrain. You, this guy, have no way to catch me. Deidara's mouth corners curled into a cold smile, looking at Naruto with eyes filled with contempt. Like Naruto, that guy who doesn't have the ability to fly, there's basically no way to catch him. As he spoke, Deidara's right hand opened slightly. His palm smacked open, and 2 small clay birds spewed out. As he waved his hand downward and through it, the little clay bird exploded in the air, creating a white mist, transforming into 2 half-meter-long flying clay birds. This flying bird is a bit special. It has 4 wings on its own. Under this premise, the relative flying speed of this bird is also doubled. The bird flying in the air rapidly circled, taking 2 different angles, successively swooping down towards one end.